Hello and welcome to a very special episode of Arn. This is Paul Bromwell, and today on the Four Horsemen Network and One True Sport, as always, I'm joined by the Hall of Famer, the founder of the Four Horsemen, the creator of that Spine Buster. He is the 1A of tag team wrestling. He's my current tag team partner. He's the enforcer. He's double A, Arn Anderson. And Arn, this is a big one today, my friend, isn't it?
Just so you know, Mark, we don't have many guests. I don't want to be snobbish, but I am. I'm particular. And you're one of the few guests that we've had on here. And when I heard Paul had set something up with you, I was very, very pleased. I've always enjoyed our conversations, our business dealings, and our, everything that we've had. If it's just passing, walking down the hallway, it was always a pleasure when you were in the building. And glad I finally got to tell you so. If I didn't back then, which I kind of doubt I did, knowing me.
Well, thank you, Arn. Thank you, Paul, man. I've been looking forward to this podcast. Arn, we go back. It was so funny that I just mentioned to you before we came on the air that our uncensored match, Boxer vs. Wrestler, was 30 years ago. I mean, time has just gone by, and I couldn't wait to get back, to get on your show and just, reminisce on some of the matches we had, some of the laughter we had, and a guy that actually had the task of teaching me how to wrestle. Because a lot of people don't know this, that when I signed my first contract with WCW, I was 31 years old, and I only had a couple matches, independent matches. I just learned how to wrestle. I just got out of Boris Malenko, Dean and Joe's father. Boris Malenko had a wrestling school in Tampa, and I just got out of it. Next thing I know, Dusty Rhodes says, anybody ever tell you look like Little Richard? And my whole life changes, right? Well, what do? They put me since I didn't know how to wrestle, and they just throw you out there. It's like throwing you out there to the wolves. They go, well, you're going to go on the road and you're going to wrestle guys like Ricky Morton, Arn Anderson, guys that are going to teach you how to wrestle. Brad Armstrong, guys, all these guys that knew how to work were going to be on the road, and your task, unfortunately, was to try and get this stiff green kid how to move in the ring. And I got to tell you, I couldn't have had better people help me get to the level that eventually won me Most Improved Wrestler and Rookie of the Year, and things that really changed my whole trajectory in professional wrestling. I can't thank you enough, buddy.
Well, you're more than welcome. And let's put a little bit of an extension on that, stiff with skills. Guys don't understand today because, they either do their 8 or 10 years on the indies before they get a break, or they go to WWE where immediately they're thrown into a system where they can learn. But for a young guy today, like my son, Brock, who's trying to break into business, there's just not enough reps. If there was just a couple of places that it was every Friday, Saturday, Sunday would be something. But, most of these kids are getting to work maybe once or twice a month. So, in those days, it was a blessing that we got the young guys like yourself, a Brad Armstrong or a Ricky Morton or an Arn Anderson who had been there, done that, drawn money, knew how to draw money, and you could trust us and we wouldn't take advantage of you. Your well-being was our well-being, and a lot of guys didn't understand that at the time, but we were right on the tail end of having guys that you can't get over by yourself. It takes two to tango.
One of the funny jokes that Arn did make of me when I was first starting was, I remember him after working with me coming back going, that kid don't know the difference between a wrist lock and a wristwatch. Well, let me tell you something, Arn. I now know what a wristwatch is, okay?
And a nice one.
Still learning the wrist lock though, okay?
Yes.
Thankfully, the wrist lock, knowing the wrist lock got you to the wristwatch. You know what I'm saying? That was a nice part of the story. Well, listen, go ahead, Arn. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, take this the right way. When you have a look like you have, it's easy for guys to dislike you. And you had it all. You had my theory that fat looks better brown. Imagine how good it looks, abs and brown. You had a background in athletics, that put you ahead of the curve. you had the right attitude, you had, everything in the world going for you. And anybody would be a fool to not make the most you can. Make that guy what he appears to be coming through the curtain, and that's a superstar. And that's what we did.
Mark. One of the other funny stories that I had was I think it was Nick Patrick was our referee, and Arn and I were having this back and forth match, and a lot of times the referee will separate you and give you instructions from the other wrestler, which Arn would tell him to tell me what to do, because I was just learning, And Nick said, Arn said, punch him in the face as hard as you can. And I said, what do you mean punch him in the face as hard as I can? And he said, because your working punch is killing him. Now, anyone that understands that working punch is when you try to hit the guy without making it look like you're killing the guy. But unfortunately, I was learning I couldn't hold back my punches sometimes. But Arn was such a tough son of a gun. He could take those punches. Even when you look at our boxing wrestler match, you can see I'm laying in some punches on Arn.
Even with gloves, man. Oh, man. But, hey, I took that as a challenge. And in the fact that all it was back in those days, now it was just wrestling matches. And if it was for a title or something, very rarely did you get a fun match like that we could, be creative.
Yeah.
We used your real life trainer, right? We plugged him in.
Rock Finnegan.
that had to have been fun for you, right?
Oh my gosh. Obviously he's passed away, but that was one of the highlights of his life, to be on national show, pay-per-view. And, the funny ending where he puts the bucket on your head and I hit you with a big left hook and you did a little spin with your head and the bucket's going around your head. It was hilarious.
Don't ask me how I got it to spin because I couldn't see a thing. I have no idea.
Oh, so many great memories, man.
Listen, Mark, we are just so excited to have you on, and just listening to you and Arn catch up. It's awesome. But we came with a purpose here this evening. Not only was it to have you and Arn catch up and tell some stories of what you are talking about here, but you got a book out, okay? Bad to Good. I'm showing it right here on screen, where you can find some of these stories that Mark's talking about and a lot more that he has to share, not only about Arn, but man, you talk about boxing, wrestling, heartbreak, redemption. It's all within the pages of this great book. And the reviews, I mean, they're coming in left and right. You can find it on Amazon. This book is an amazing read. You're a special human being. I haven't been able to put it down from Kelly. Inspirational from one of pro wrestling's all-time greatest performers. Another Amazon reviews. If you're listening to my voice right now, which I know many of you are, I see questions is flying in. Continue to do that. Use the super chat function, guys. We're going to have Mark and Arn answer your questions here shortly. But grab a copy of this book. He has so many great stories. Talk a little bit to us about this book and what it means to you, getting it together. You worked with Ben Veal, good friend of mine. I know he's become a great partner and friend of yours, Mark. Talk about working on this book and what it's meant to you, just putting this journey together.
Well, thank you for the nice words. I met Ben Veal over a year ago in an autograph session in the UK, and we talked about, I seen he was an award-winning writer, and he was so prolific, and he wrote some stories about me, and we just hit it off as friends, and we came to the conclusion, hey, let's, I've always wanted to write my autobiography, and what better guy to do it than him? So we started doing Zoom calls all the time. I mean, every Zoom call was at least an hour, and I would tell him a story. And of course, he wants to put it in chronological order, and we went back and forth, and we couldn't be happier when it finally came out. And, it's almost 400 pages, so there's a lot of good stories, but it also talks about, from when I say bad to good, I mean, I'm very honest with the depths I went through depression, through drug abuse, through just wanting to end it all, to, this incredible resurrection to becoming this inspirational speaker, changing my life and living for other people and just wanting to make a difference. I couldn't be happier. I couldn't be more blessed. And I look back on my life and I have no regrets, because I don't want to change anything, because all those paths led to where I am today, and it couldn't be better.
Man, that's so great. And we are honored and could not wait to have you on, talk about the book. As I said, I started reading some. I was talking to you before we started hit the record button. But just to see, you talked about how you were digging out swimming pools at one point in your life, right? In your early days and all the way through to the wrestling, working in the power plant. You talked about working with guys. There's a couple lines in here, if it's okay, I'd like to share
Sure.
with our audience specific to Arn. Is that okay? Is it okay if we share
Absolutely.
a few lines? He said, Arn always came across as a super serious as the enforcer on TV, but ask any of the boys who shared a locker room with him, and they'll tell you all the same. Away from the cameras, Arn was absolutely hilarious. He had a devilishly straight sense of humor and would never laugh at his own jokes, which made him even funnier. He would deliver a one-liner on someone that would have us all laughing so much, yet his facial expressions never changed one bit. He genuinely wanted me to get better and climb up the ranks at WCW. There was zero ego or insecurity. This is why I love this man. And in the wrestling industry would have been so much healthier back then if it had been made up with more guys like Double A. That's so kind of you to say.
Well, it's absolute truth. Arn was in a very strong position. I mean, he was one of Ric Flair's best friends, and Ric Flair was even a booker at sometimes I was there. And he never took that power. He was always like, I don't know, I hate to say it like this, but he's always just one of the boys. He just treated everybody with respect. Everybody loved him. And he didn't want to go toe-to-toe with him because nobody was more quick-witted than Arn Anderson, okay? I got to put him out up there with Bobby Heenan, okay? I mean, them two.
Wow.
I don't know if there's any two better than them guys, but Arn was hilarious, and he was always a lot of fun in the locker room because, man, he could cut up with everybody.
You know, if you really think about it, all you had to do is look around the locker room. There was so much material walking around, all the gimmicks, all the stuff. You know, if you didn't realize that, you know, the business was a work and we're there to get each other over, and I'm going to deliver you back home to your family the way I want you to deliver me back home safely, you know, then you could have fun with it. It's the guys that walked around that, you know, they're shit don't stink, that you would just go, well, that guy's not long for the business, because you could see it, right? You could and predict the guys that, you know, well, hey, I'm too big. How short is he? How tall is he? How big is I can't put him over. This, that, and the other. It's a work.
It is. And, you know, Arn, we've exchanged I think we exchanged the World Television title a couple times together, you know.
Yes.
And fun matches, man. I mean, it was just like a day off working with you. I don't think you feel the same about me, but but eventually I got to the point where it was much better. But seriously, it was man. You know, when you get to the arena and they put your name, and you know, they used to have a chalkboard for when we were there, Arn, if you remember that.
Mm-hmm, yep.
They have all the matches listed. And when you were going against someone like Arn Anderson, it was like a night off. It was just like you knew you were going to have a fun time because he was so creative. And Arn, some of the moves that you helped me with, and I'll never forget this. There was a move I would do. I used to, because I was brand new, they used to have my finishing move was knocking people out my left hook. We call it the Tutti Frutti. I'll kick your booty with my Tutti Frutti.
Yes.
What I would do is I would wind up my hands and go with the big left hook, and Arn would give those big eyes, and he'd duck down, which meant I'm going to come up with a big knee lift Arn up, and then hit him with my Tutti Frutti. And it was just little creative things, little things that mattered, that made the match so much more interesting and fun and back and forth.
Well, and you know, letting the audience know who didn't actually know that you were Golden Gloves, you know, champion and all that, just putting that little bit of fluff into what could have just been just a straight left hook, and it'd have been the same result. But putting a little bit of flash, that's the showbiz that we try to do, and that's what our business is. You just, you know, take a shoot and groom it and fluff it up and put a little showbiz in it, and before you know it, you got a professional wrestling match. Imagine that.
Well, and I tell you, one of the things that helped me become popular as a performer was because I didn't know how to wrestle, so they try to make my entrance longer than my matches. So here I am coming out with a bad blaster, shooting confetti, frisbees, you know, the kiss that don't miss. I got all kinds of things happening before the match even starts, you know. So that's a testament to the entertainment aspect of the business, and then learning how to actually work with a veteran like an Arn Anderson.
Well, we had fun, my man. We came along at a time where, it was, guaranteed contracts were unheard of. And prior to that, prior to WCW buying the company, that was the first opportunity that the guys had to have guaranteed money. So we all played a role in helping that being achieved. And it's a wonderful business. It really is. I just wish there was more live events available. I'd love to hear tomorrow morning waking up that two zillionaires had opened up 2 territories, for these young kids to learn. It's just,
there's so much pressure on those guys now. Like even when you watch the WWE shows, and you know that these guys are having one of their first matches and it's on live national television. I can't imagine the pressure that they're under to perform at that level. And then having coaches like I seen one the other day that one of the coaches was The Undertaker, one was Booker T, and just the pressure that they're under to go to the ring and perform is just amazing.
Yeah.
And nowadays, if you'll get the review right away on social media too, Mark.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Right.
And the fans, which I love. Anybody knows me knows I love the fans, because without the fans, we don't have an industry, we don't have a business. And some of them just like to, whatever the terminology is, they just get on there and blast these young guys and just bury the crap out of them, not knowing that they've had 8 matches maybe. And those were all 8 were in their wrestling camp or wrestling school. This is their first live TV at a point, they don't give you that information.
Need a little grace, that's for sure. And but Mark, listen, I wanted to mention real quick, and then I got a slide, a picture I got to show both of you guys, because it has the bucket on its head, and then we'll go to some questions. But
you would like that, yeah. You would.
You
like
know, I
that.
couldn't let that go, Arn. Come on.
No, of course not.
You talked about in the book about how you got really good at applying the rouge and the eyeliner, and the little Richard.
Little Richard, yeah.
But then Dad had his buddies over to watch your first match.
Yeah.
And it was kind of, the whole deal of having him watch. And what was he? He was a police officer, wasn't he?
He was a detective, and all his friends were police officers, and they were the same ones. They were the same friends that would come and watch me at the Golden Gloves, winning the New York State title, the Empire Gold Medal, the Empire Games, making the USA boxing team. These are all the guys that would be there, watch me knocking people out, right? So my dad has them all over for our first event. I think it was a Clash of Champions was the first time I walked out. Yep. And there's that Tutti Frutti music playing, and I come walking out, and my dad, later on told me this, that the whole room was like quiet, like seeing this flamboyant guy come out with feather boa, lipstick, eyeliner, rouge, my hair all done up with that little thin mustache, looking just like Little Richard, And so I'm walking up, and then the first thing I ever have to say on the microphone is, "I'm so pretty. I should have been born a little girl," like that. And my dad says he had to break the ice. He just goes, My dad was a Jew from Brooklyn, New York. So he says, "Hey, at least he's making good money."
Love it. Yeah. So good. And I'm sure, hey, he was, you were, and you did. And it's just I thought that was such a good story. Guys, listen, I had to put it up on the screen. Found this from the Sportster, the 10 worst matches in WCW and Uncensored history. You guys ranked number 4, and there it is, round 4. 2 minutes, 48 seconds, bucket on head. The kids that don't miss aren't getting
I got to disagree with that, because that was an entertaining match. Two guys just put together 2 different sports and made it work. And I got to tell you, I've seen some other boxing or wrestling matches, and they don't hold a candle to what Arn and I did. So, respectfully, I got to disagree with number 4.
Yeah.
Maybe we could have been number 10. No, I'm just kidding.
Some of these matches were definitely entertaining and physical. And if you haven't, do yourself a favor, go back and watch this match, because Arn, I saw you taking some shots, some real stiff shots with those boxing gloves.
You know what? That's what we do. And I knew that he would place it where I wanted it to jar me. That's what he did. He's a Golden Gloves champion. If anybody that knows anything about sports, that's like, say, asking a guy that's a soccer fan, do you know Pele? It's like, that's something special that he brought to the business. So let's bring it to the match. And if he rattles me a little bit, I've been rattled by some of the best, trust me.
Yeah, let's go to the chats because we got people lined up with questions for you, and I want it to be about the fans tonight for all of you to get some questions. And we're going to start with Daisy Mama. And Daisy Mama said, "This is awesome. Big fan of Mark in the WCW days." Daisy Mama, thank you so much. But she's excited to have you here with us. No question from her, but just wanted to share that. Rob jumps in and said, "Ask him about the November 13th, 1995 match against Eddie Guerrero. That was a very good match. Great storytelling."
Yeah. Fortunately, that's after Arn taught me how to wrestle. So I was able to go, wrestling Eddie. And Arn, I don't know if you ever wrestled Eddie one-on-one before.
Probably at that point in time, not yet.
Okay. He was just phenomenal in the ring. Just such a... there's not a move that Eddie probably couldn't do, So he was another one that just brought my game up to another level when I got to work with him. And we went to it was a 10-minute time limit match, and I was the champion at the time, and we fought to a draw. And it was one of the few times that you actually see wrestlers actually shake hands and hug after the match. So that was a pretty cool moment for me and Eddie.
Eddie had one of those abstract things that you don't know why, but you just liked him as a fan.
Yeah.
You just wanted to pull for him, and you just liked him. And he had a little bit of angel on this shoulder, and he had a little bit of devil on this shoulder, and he was able to pull that out of himself virtually out of every performance. And that made it easier for a guy like you who they're wanting to like, but I kind of like Eddie too, but this guy's going to be a big star over here. It just is part of that process of getting each other over.
Amen.
Albert is up next with a super chat for us. He said, "I should have been born a pretty little girl, but I was born a bad man." You say it. This is your line, Mark.
You know what? Tell him to hush, okay? Deal with my gimmick, okay?
That's right. He said, "Remember, Bromwell, the privilege was all yours." You got that right, Albert. Oh man, so glad. We got a lot more questions in the queue. I'll find yours, Eddie. I see that you gave us that you chipped in, but we have a lot of questions here. Looks like Ryan's here with us, and CG and others. CB has a question. He says, "Question for Mark: do you think if you had the rights to the Johnny B. Bad gimmick and brought it to the WWF, Vince McMahon would have put the WWF Championship on you as Johnny B. Bad?"
Well, it's funny because like I write in my book, I was the first one to get a guaranteed contract because 3 years before this, Vince flew me to his home in Stamford, and I had dinner with him. And at that time, he said, "What's it going to take to come to the WWE?" Or it was WWF back then. And I said, "Well, I got to have a guaranteed contract." So I already had one waiting for me at WCW. And he says, "We don't offer guaranteed contracts. We offer opportunities." I'll never forget that. And so 3 years later, now my contract is up again, and the business has changed a lot. And I think he thought we were going to be able to get something like the Johnny B. Bad character. And this is back when lawsuits started going back and forth because there's the fake Diesel and the fake there's all kinds of stuff going on. But anyways, so when I get there, he asked me what's it going to take to come to WWF. And I said, "Well, Vince, I got to have a guaranteed contract." And he looks at me, goes, "Done." And he goes, "What else?" I go, "I got to have a signing bonus." And he goes, "How much?" And I told him, and he said, "Done." And he goes, "Is that it?" And I go, "I need one more thing." And this is what blew him away. I said, "I would like my wife to travel everywhere I travel." Now, the reason I said this is back then, everybody in the business was getting divorced. I mean, it was so hard to have a relationship in that business when you're away from your family that much. And so he said, "Well, I have never heard that one before." And he agreed to bring in my ex-wife. Now, she was just going to fly everywhere I flew. So there was a ticket for me to be a ticket for her, but no talk about her coming in as a character. So I said to him, "Hey, why don't you let her be my valet?" And he goes, No. Let's just worry about you, okay? And they flew me to New York. Well, what happened was they sent me one ticket, and I called Vince I had a cell phone. I call him up. I go, "Hey, Vince, there's only one ticket here to sign my contract and go over creative." And he says, "Well, what do you need another one for?" I go, my wife flies everywhere I fly. He goes, to sign a contract? And I said, yes. So sure enough, he flew his butt back up there. And of course, when we walk into his office and he sees my wife, first thing he says is, I got to put her on TV. And that's how Sable was born that day. But anyways, long story short was that now they're going to talk to me about creative. They had all these drawings made up. They had all these ideas. And we walk in there and Vince goes, what do you think about Wild Man Marc Mero? And I'm thinking to myself, what the hell's a wild man? Like, and so Vince says to me, can you yell like Tarzan? Can you do it like a, and I said, Vince, I don't got a very strong voice. I don't think I can do that. So anyways, I asked him, so tell me what a wild man, I'm like, am I from a jungle? Who am I, you know? Anyways, the character never
You're
resonated
thinking
with
leopard
me.
skin, the whole 9 yards coming
He
down.
wants you to be Tarzan.
Yeah.
Yes, it's like it didn't resonate with the audience. It was just a very tough thing. But you know, like Arn said, you put trust in the creative. Like you, this is the machine. They created Undertaker. They created these big stars. I'm thinking they must know something I don't know. Okay, I'll be Wild Man Marc Mero. And as we all know, it was not the ending to my career I would have hoped for. But you know, like I said, guys, I wouldn't want to change nothing, man, because it all led to this, and it's the best.
Well, and you had 6 pretty strong years.
Yeah.
You know, think about that for a minute. And I know you were smart, and like the old timers tell you, save your money.
Well, unfortunately, Arn, you know, getting divorced and making some really bad financial decisions, and that's all part of my book, that it really led to losing it all and starting over. And then my whole life changes, becoming a speaker. And like I said, this is my 18th year doing it, and everything I lost was given back to me in a sense, in a different way. But I never was able to make a difference in other people's lives like I do now. Wrestling was like you get to entertain people, but now it's like you get to change lives. And because of what I went through, I can understand what other people go through when they go through the loss of a loved one, a heartbreak, a divorce, drug addiction, and death, whatever it would be. I get it, man. I've been there.
Well, not only did you overcome all those negatives, you more than overcame them, because you look pretty damn healthy sitting there right now. You know, I mean,
It looks pretty.
It does look pretty. You still got those abs. I hope not.
I do. I take pride in that. But you hush, Arn. I saw you winking at me when I first got on your show, you son of a gun.
Well, hey, you know, I still have standards.
Mark still has those high cheekbones. I mean, and look at that head of hair on you, buddy. Come on.
Oh, brother, come on now. You know, just a little bit just for men. That's all, buddy. But you know, it's you know, because I'm around young people all the time. I got to tell you guys, it keeps you young. I'm around middle, high school, college age kids all the time, and the energy that you absorb from these kids is phenomenal. And these presentations are so much fun. It's about an hour long. And to get kids' attention for an hour is incredible. So they feed me, and I look forward to it every day.
Win-win, right? Win-win.
Amen.
You know, it's you talked about everything that you've been through, and you wouldn't change a thing. And you have been through so much. You were sitting there talking about how I wanted a ticket for my wife so that she could travel with me. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I wonder if he would have changed that, hindsight being what it is, 2020. Would he want her that close to the business? But you just said, you answered it for me, saying I wouldn't have changed a thing of any of my life of what's happened.
Absolutely not. Like, a lot of people don't realize that when I realized that she was getting over so big, I'm already on a very good guaranteed contract for that time. You know, they're making some money now that's just incredible, but at that time in the 90s, it was incredible money. And I'm getting paid the same every week, but now I can help her get over and be the bad guy. And, you know, obviously we go through our things. And I lost a big main event opportunity with Stone Cold Steve Austin when I allowed her to sable bomb me on I think it was Raw or something. And I write about this in my book. You know, and I've talked to Steve since and done this podcast, and it's all cool, man. You know, it's like, but realizing that, because, you know, I was supposed to wrestle Steve at the LA Forum, a main event. And when I got to the arena, I noticed the card's been changed. I was like, what happened? And little did I know that it was all because Steve saw me get Sable bombed or power bombed by my ex-wife, Sable, that he's like, this guy's got a chance against me when a girl goes and beats him up. What does it say for him? I understand that, but it's still, I wouldn't have changed it because her merchandise was selling second to only his at the time.
That's incredible.
Hmm.
So yeah, no, totally makes sense. Listen, we're at about the halfway point here. Lots of great questions coming in. We had one of our listeners put in the comment, and so this is a good halfway segue because Arn, I'm going to talk about some of your appearances coming up too before we wrap up and get more questions in. But D Nexus 1 says, just wanted to say, Arn, how amazing your T-shirts are on One True Sport. Never a victim. So big fan of that shirt. Thank you, D Nexus 1. Appreciate your support. And we have a lot going on merch wise. Four Horsemen. Listen, Mark, I don't know if you know this or not. Arn was savvy enough. He now owns the Four Horsemen trademark and he's got the merch line going and all that good stuff. So Arn just wasn't a guy that put a bucket on his head and took the tutti frutti. He figured some things out while he was in the business. And the founder of the Four Horsemen owns the trade.
That is great to hear. That's a smart business thing. And I did the same thing you did, Arn. I recently just got the rights to the name Johnny B. Bad. I own that also.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, that wasn't possible in decades past, and it usually the company you work for, if they gave you a gimmick or something, you pretty much just figured, well, they own that, that's theirs. And that's really not so unless they trademark it, and I had our lawyer,
Mike Dawkins.
Mike Dawkins, I had him research this, and it wasn't cheap, but a lot of people do know, but a lot of people don't know just how important that Four Horsemen name is and can be down the road what it'll do. I think every decade that it goes by, people look back and it's like, do you know who was the coach of the Green Bay Packers when they first won their Super Bowls? It's like an immediate connect. Oh, well, Four Horsemen, everybody has ever heard of it, or their grandfathers mention it, or they've seen it, or they know what this means at least. You know what I mean? So, that was a coup for me. And, of course, my own name is trademarked. Yours is trademarked. Brock's is trademarked. It just gives you a little bit of opportunities for T-shirt places that want to do hats, just not the mainstream stuff as far as the 4-packs of the figures and all that. But there's still money to be made if you own the trademark.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
Smart move, man. Smart
move. It's great. And listen, by the way, you can meet Arn and Brock. Arn, I have a couple appearances. I know we didn't have the time to go over them, but a couple slides. It's coming up WrestleMania weekend, April 17th through 20th, Las Vegas. You and Brock going to be there. I know you're excited about WrestleCon, my man.
Yes, I am. It's a awesome show. Like Johnny was talking earlier. Johnny, I'm gonna still have to call you that because that's what I see.
You can call him that.
That's what I see when I look at him. He's Johnny B. Bad to me. Always will be. You'll see guys and ladies in the business that you haven't seen in 20 years, and you look up and there they are. It gives me a thrill just to know that everybody's out and about, and it's great for the fans. It's great for the talent. It's just one of those weekends that is just pure. I don't know. I don't even know what you would call it, but it's just, hey, I can take 5 minutes and walk down 3 doors down and there's Knobs or Sags or Jim Duggan or any of those guys, and go hug their neck and look back at the line of people that are seeing this and hey, I'll be right there. Don't go anywhere. Just give me 1 minute. Is that okay? And no, man, go ahead. Wrestling fans understand. They get it. And that's where they're there. Nothing greater than be sitting at that table, which I know you've experienced, and you have the grandfather come up who's 65, and then you got his son that's 45, and then you got an 8-year-old, and the 8-year-old walks up to the table and does that over there. Shouldn't that be grandpa doing that or your dad or something? But it's so cool. really is.
Arn, and just to say another thing about that was that when we worked together, obviously they had me built as the baby face or the good guy at that time, and Arn was kind of the heel. But man, when they would introduce either one of us, they get the cheers for the Johnny B. Bad fans. But man, when he would come out, you'd see everybody doing the four, man, and that's something that I'm so glad you have that, and that's forever, buddy. That's forever.
Well, I figured out what it was. It wasn't because it was this massive push, because we, as you know, we didn't beat anybody. But it was. That's just the truth. If you go back and look at the one-loss record, but everybody knew that bought a ticket that night, they were going to get 20 minutes of entertainment, no matter who the other opponent was over there. And consistently, 100% of the times, we worked our ass off to give the audience the best possible story, best possible match, and do our best to, we didn't concentrate on cheap heat. It'd have been real easy to turn around and go, shut up, fat boy, or whatever it may be, and get 2 or 3 people to boo you. But we tried to get our heat with our opponent. And a lot of guys never understood that. If you get heat with your opponent, you do rotten things to him, then it'll transfer to the match.
And Paul, the other thing about Arn was some of the best promos ever, just from his heart, man. Just real, like he's not screaming, not throwing a tantrum, but just from his heart, just even lowering his voice to where you had to like lean in to hear what he was saying because he was so serious and you believed it, man. And those were classics.
Real, intense, focused. To your point, Mark, it wasn't screaming and yelling and all this other nonsense. You just felt like this guy's going to kick my ass, and my eyes are as big as saucers right now staring at the TV. He's got me.
Arn never once said, "I'm so outrageous, it's contagious."
But I was thinking it every minute of the day.
I was waiting for the "I'm so pretty" line too, but he hasn't said that yet either.
Hush, Paul.
The simplistic one was the hush.
Yeah.
That one, it was all I could do to bust out laughing every time he would hit me with one of those. But that's one of those things that was so real to me, because if I was a badass and was not just playing a badass, if a guy said that to me, it would frustrate me. So I just treat it normal.
Yeah, they were classics.
I got another quick appearance update. Mark, I think your camera got turned while we were just talking real quick there for some reason. But we'll throw this up here, and it's Arn. You're going to be in Indianapolis at the Squared Circle Expo as well. I know that's another fun one that you are going to be at again end of the month in April. So and this is another big one for you, isn't it?
Oh, it's huge. Yeah, it really is. Before we get to those, let me back up to one just so we don't lose it.
Okay.
Tampa this weekend, Saturday, Lutz, Florida.
Lutz, Florida. You've told me about that one 3 times, and I still keep forgetting Lutz, Florida. That's shame on me.
Yeah, Brother Bad over here will remember most of the guests.
Bad.
It's going to be Colonel Parker and his crew is a big chunk of those guys. Bunkhouse Buck. I know you've worked with all these guys.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Colonel Parker, Haku, all those guys. Glacier's going to be there. It's going to be a pretty big event too, and that's this Saturday. So before we move on,
Lutz, Florida this Saturday. Don't miss it. Arn, Colonel Parker, Bunkhouse Buck sounds like a huge WCW reunion.
Yeah. I think there'll be surprises there.
Get
to see my friend Joe Gomez. We all know who Joe Gomez is. One of the nicest human beings that has lasted over the course of time. You know him very well?
Everybody knows Joe Gomez. If you were back in our day, you know Joe Gomez. And please give him my best, Arn.
Yeah, I will. He's one of those guys that it's not a facade with him. He is a pure baby face in every sense of the word. And then we got our big stuff coming up towards the end of the month, and we know where that is.
Yep. I flashed up there, Squared Circle Expo, WrestleCon. So that's really going to be exciting. Check out Arn, man. Arn's one of the nicest guys to meet. Mark, I've had the opportunity to sit by Arn and watch the fans interact with him, and that's a treat for me. To be able to see, kids and kids. It's adults my age, 48, 50 years old, that just can't get the grin off their face when they get to meet their hero, Arn Anderson. So make sure you take advantage of it.
Paul, that's when you know a guy really loved the business, because you give back. It's I don't realize if it wasn't for these people, him and I would have never ever had a job, or couldn't have done something we loved doing. And my dad always told me it doesn't cost anything to be nice to people, and
so true.
It's the greatest feeling in the world to make someone else happy.
You know what? It takes the same amount of time to be a dick or to be a nice guy.
Yeah.
And those people, they just, they come down, they bring their hard-earned money, they get everybody in the car, they stand in line to get into these signings, and they stand in line again to get in line for your table, and just give them the kindness that they're giving you back, because they go through a lot before you ever get to see them that we don't even think about. What traffic jam were they in just to get in the area of the building? They find a parking place, they go stand in line to get in the building, then they got to go stand in line for the particular talents, all of them. They've had a pretty full day before they ever get to see you. So a lot of guys don't realize that, talent-wise. Just something to consider.
Absolutely, Arn. And you never know what someone else is going through in their life, what their battles may be. And just a smile, a hug, or reminisce about an old match that they loved or something is so important.
You bet.
I want to also make sure that our folks know, because Mark, I know we talked about the book and that where they can purchase that at Amazon, but if they go to markmero.com, they're going to see a lot more than just the book that's out, right? Because as you said, you're traveling how many days a year?
Well, I'm doing about 230 events a year, and all over the country. I've done schools in Russia. I've done schools in Guatemala, Canada, the UK. Is just been incredible.
Out of curiosity, John, do you have one guy that books you for all this stuff, or is this a collection of guys?
I have I used to have a office of 5 people and a whole dance team. We had a tour bus, and it's over the time I realized that what's changed in people's lives is my story, not a whole dance troupe or whatever. But I just have one person that does all my scheduling for me, and I just get an itinerary, and it's like week after week. We have a program that shows me exactly where. It's called Trip It, where it shows me where I'm going, and Team Up Calendar, which is incredible, where everything is listed on there. Events, times, coordination with their tech people, because I'm still doing like a multimedia presentation. In other words, when I'm talking, Arn, things behind me are happening. Like where I'm talking about where I'm growing up, it shows my apartment, and it zooms into the bedroom, and it's really cool how it captivates students on wanting to see what's next.
Cool.
Wow. Man, if you're listening to this, watching this, whatever, markmero.com. Mark, you're doing this for teens, schools, churches, other types of organizations as well?
Yeah, I'm doing corporate events too, which are a lot of fun because you can talk to your peers, and you can kind of let loose a little bit and have some humor.
Sure.
When I'm talking to students, obviously we're talking about relevant issues students are going through, whether it's depression, anxiety, bullying, thoughts of not wanting to be here, and also setting goals. I have a little book when I was 10 years old that wrote my dreams and goals into existence. And these dreams and goals that I read to the kids that I wrote down when I was 10 years old eventually became a reality in my life. And it's just been incredible.
Well, that's got to be impactful.
Unbelievable.
For those kids. If he did it, I can do it, right?
Well, and also when I speak at corporate events, I always talk about that, we say things like those were the days. And I'm here to tell you, these are the days. And man, we learn from past mistakes. We grow in grace and knowledge. We can accomplish anything we set our minds to. I want to believe that the rest of my life is the best of my life. I don't want to think that the best years have already passed me. It's like, what hope do you have for living when you realize the best years are gone? No, the best years are ahead, and you got to live like that. And that's the way I live, because I'll never retire. I'll just refire.
Nice.
Wow, man, I'm getting fired up listening to you just now. That was 5 minutes of fire right there, pal. I love it.
That's a hell of a close. I don't know if you consider closing your show with that. That's pretty stout.
Well, that's more of a corporate event, with students. It's a little different. little different on how I close my show, but it's man, it's just amazing to see kids get out of their seat and applaud and just really be moved by a presentation that touches their heart, because by touching someone's heart is how you change their mind.
It's fair to say most of the folks that are here watching tonight remember you as Johnny B. Bad, Marc Mero, wrestling fan, wild man Marc Mero in the wrestling days. But Marc, I think what you're doing now and your story and how you've used it, my goodness, this is what you're going to be rewarded for in the next life. And remember, I mean, it's just incredible to hear how you've decided to take what you've learned and what you're doing with it, because most people don't. And you're using it to bless others and change people's lives. And you don't know how many people, how many students, how many others, because of how you shared your story, maybe they decided they weren't going to take their life that day or made a positive life change. And that's incredible. That's real. That's to be celebrated, my friend.
You know what's really cool, guys, is because I do so many schools now that, like, for example, when I go to Texas now, instead of going and doing all their schools in their area that I go to, like when I go to Laredo, they bus 25 schools into an arena where I do 8,000 or 10,000 kids at a time. It's just incredible to be in that. It's like being in wrestling again when you're in front of that many people.
8,000 to 10,000, and you're the primary speaker.
I'm the only speaker that comes out and does that. They have a band that plays and stuff, but I'm the only speaker that comes out and gives a 1-hour presentation.
Man, just think when this guy was hitting you with boxing gloves and putting a bucket on your head all these years later, what he'd be doing, Arn. Isn't it something to see the journey a life can take?
I knew the kid had it.
I swear, I only wish I could talk then the way I could talk now, because I'm much more comfortable.
True.
I had short catchphrases that I could use, but now I got to be up there for quite a while without stuttering or forgetting what I'm talking about.
Well, hey, you know what? And here would be my advice if I would have been the boss at the time. I'd have been smart enough to see that he's green, but you have a look that's once in a lifetime. I mean, you had this rare superstar. It's like you were glowing when you came out of the curtain. I mean, the guy was a megastar. You wouldn't have had to say a word, one line, 2 lines, and that'd been the end of it. You didn't need to get into the longer you talk, if you hit, just 1 or 2 of those Little Richard lines and make your way to the ring, you'd have been just fine.
Thank you, Arn. One of the other things I wrote about in my book was Clarence Santani, who was Little Richard's driver. I never met Little Richard, and I always wondered what he thought of me or what he thought of the character. And because, I've seen the pictures of him where he'd hold up the poster of me before his concert, and he would say something like, "They say he's pretty. He ain't as pretty as me," and he'd rip up the poster. So I always wondered what he thought. Well, anyways, I got a call from this guy, or email. It was on Facebook. He wrote to me, and we became friends. And he's actually come to my presentations now. But anyways, he said Little Richard loved that character. He'd get laughing. He would talk about what you said. And that made me feel so good to know that the guy that I'm imitating enjoyed that character. And I only wish I could have met him at some point.
Well, I couldn't tell you without ever knowing the truth from either party. He loved it.
Yeah.
I mean, you did a great job with it. Everything. I'm sure he was thrilled, because we're all fans, whether it be athletics or entertainment or whatever. I feel like wrestlers are, we all like and respect and appreciate athletes that can do things we can't. That's the guy we're fans for. I'm a big NFL fan. I'm a Atlanta Braves fan. I can't hit a curveball. I look at those guys that can smack a curveball up in the seats in center field and go, how did they do that? And I think we're all fans of other athletes that do things that were not possible for us to do because we don't have the talent.
I think that's why we love watching other sports too. You just appreciate someone that can really just excel, and because you know what it takes to get to that level, and how much time and effort they must have put in to get to that incredible level.
Yeah. I was just going to say, a prime example is NFL, these receivers that make these catches that you have, catching it off the back of a guy's helmet and stuff, you just go, oh my God, how's the hand-eye coordination got to be to do some of that stuff that these guys do?
And speaking of that, it seems the catches are getting more and more crazy every single year.
Acrobatic. Yeah.
You're not kidding.
Mark, it's the perfect segue talking about sports because Eddie Prather had a question for you, and it's about boxing.
Sure.
Who were some of your favorite boxers growing up? Thank you and Arn for all the entertainment you gave us wrestling fans. So some of your favorite boxers.
I mean, obviously Muhammad Ali, and I got to meet Muhammad Ali when I wrestled at Detroit. We were at the Joe Louis Arena, and I don't know, Arn, were you there that day Muhammad Ali came to the arena?
WCW, right?
Yeah, WCW.
Yeah, I got it. That's one of the few pictures I have that I've saved. I had a picture with him. There's a little bit of a small story. I was just down the way, and I was in line waiting to get a picture with him. This is Muhammad Ali.
Right.
And I'm maybe 15, 20 people back in the line, and he's signing, and he looked up, kind of looked back, and he went, motion. I'm going, me? Yeah. Now I'm standing in line with the fans and couple of the boys and a couple of the office people. And I go down. He said, come on here, champ. You don't wait in line.
Oh, wow.
Signed an autograph for
Wow.
me. Muhammad Ali knew who I was.
Well, I got to tell you,
just floored me.
I got to tell you this quick story, Arn. Was when I was wrestling the Honky Tonk Man at Joe Louis Arena. I had my belt on. I was warming up backstage. Muhammad Ali comes through the curtain to meet me, and he comes walking up to me, and I have this whole picture, and that's a picture I will cherish forever. And what the picture is Muhammad Ali's trying to shake my hand, and I just go into my best impersonation of Muhammad Ali. I said, I was the greatest fighter of all times. I'll be Fraser. I'll be Foreman. Look at my face. I'm so pretty. And he leans over and hugs me, and we get laughing, man. A moment in time that I got captured. Someone took that picture, one of WCW's photographers, and I cherish that picture forever, man.
Yeah, what is that? For those of us that know who and what that guy was, what does that mean, man? That's something special.
It's kind of hard when I speak at schools now and I talk about some of these people that I've met, and Muhammad Ali obviously is one of them. You could tell that as I've been here for so many years now, 18 years, the newer kids, they don't really know who that is, or they missed out on that incredible human being that walked this planet at one time.
I know I'm right about this, but I'll just throw it out there anyway. He had an absolute aura surrounding him. It was nothing you could see. I don't know how I could feel it, but there was just almost like a slight electrical field. Is the only way. Maybe it was just the goosebumps that I had being in the presence and being right here and having a conversation with the guy. But there's something different and special about that guy.
You know, Arn, when you met him around that time, he was the most recognized person on the planet.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you got him and guys like maybe Michael Jackson. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Most recognized people on the planet.
No joke.
Mm-mm. Albert says, guys, he said, I met Mark at an autograph signing in Toronto. Some blonde that was in Playboy asked him about the glitter gun, shook his hand. He was a class act. He says, Raina's lost. So there you go. That was his comment. Thank you, Albert. Darren Staley with a little bit of an update here. He said, has Arn heard about the Ric Flair Act in North Carolina? Now, it's an acronym for an act that they're working on there in your backyard, but they want to establish a pro wrestling museum in North Carolina. And there are people, lawmakers that are in support of this. I saw a local news story. It's on social media. Darren said he's working on getting some bipartisan support for this as well. But have you heard about this North Carolina Pro Wrestling Museum?
The absolute first hearing about it.
I actually saw it online today. I read about it online today, and hopefully that's something that comes through. Yeah,
the news was saying the lawmakers have said how a lot has gone down in Greensboro and Charlotte, and so many auditoriums and wrestling venues throughout the 70s, 80s, 60s in North Carolina, and there is a serious effort to establish a brick and mortar wrestling museum in North Carolina. How cool would that be?
Wish him nothing but luck. That would be just phenomenal. Lot of fans could get a lot of pleasure out of something like that. Something they could go visit, and that'd be cool. Way cool.
We have another super chat from Albert. He said, "Mark, were you a fan of George?" And I don't want to butcher the last name here. Chevalo.
Chevalo.
Okay.
Canada. Yeah. I mean, George Chevalo was obviously one of the toughest humans on the planet. I don't think he's been knocked out or knocked down very many times because he just could take a punch like no one else could. There's a few guys like him, like Chuck Wepner, George Chevalo, and guys that you could just were amazing. Because some guys that just had a gifted with a chin that could take a punch, and he was one of them, man. One tough guy.
He goes on to say, and since I'm a Canuck, your thoughts on Brett, Owen, and other lads from the Great White North at 51st State?
Brett.
Yeah, thoughts on the Hearts, Brett and Owen and all the other Canadians there. He's from Albert's from Canada.
Yeah, when I blew out my knee, I needed total reconstruction knee surgery, and I was out 8 months. And when I came back, or when I was going through it, Bret Hart contacted me, and he said, if you want to rehab your knee, come up to Calgary. So I went up to Calgary and stayed right near Bret. I stayed at a hotel near Bret, and every day I would go to the dungeon, the original dungeon that is widely known, and work out. And the guys that were there were like Christian, Edge, brand new guys, these young kids that I would work out with in the ring. And rehab my knee, but I always was grateful for Bret for doing that for me. And of course, Owen, I've wrestled with Owen. I was Bret's tag team partner in South Africa, and I got to wrestle against Owen many times while I was with WWE. And I'm grateful for those experiences. And Arn, you probably have Bret Hart stories too, man. He was a class act.
Yeah, big time. I mean, because he was brought up in a household where learning to work was first and foremost. It wasn't big spots. It wasn't huge high spots jumping out of the ceiling. It wasn't hitting each other in the head with chairs. It was learn to wrestle. And you could look at Bret's work rate and Owen's work rate just to see that they were taught the right way and brought up the right way and respectful of the business. And you got to appreciate that for sure.
You also touched on, we were talking about boxing, and another thought came to my mind. I'm sure both of you saw George Foreman pass away. Yeah.
It was sudden too, I think, John.
You know, there's certain deaths that really hit you hard when you see them. You know, as we get older, obviously we see more and more people that are passing that are our age or older, that you just, you know, that really meant a lot. I mean, obviously growing up, we saw George Foreman's match fights, and what a class act, and everybody had the George Foreman grill. So I was just really sad when I saw that, because he was really loved. He was a beloved guy, man. Just everyone loved that guy.
And apparently it was kind of sudden because there was no buildup that I saw, unless he was sick and kept it from everybody. You know, it was just like, whoa, no, has he been sick? You know,
I didn't hear. That's what surprised me, is there was no follow through on what happened or why. And then you get all the conspiracy theories coming out that I've been reading, but who knows? You know, I don't want anyone to speculate on that.
Sure. We had a question come in the chat too. Wants to know, Mark, if you were ever a victim of an Owen Hart prank.
Absolutely, yes. Real quick, I was wrestling the Davey Boy Smith. We were in South Africa, and Davey comes into the locker room. And it was just me and him in this particular locker room because we were going to go over the match. And all of a sudden, the door closes, and we hear like a latch. And we didn't think much of it. And we just go over our match. Davey gets ready to leave, and Owen padlocked our door with a lock that he found that was open that nobody knew the combination to. Okay. So, make a long story short, my entrance music starts playing, and I'm begging him. I'm going, Owen, please. Now, we don't know for sure it's Owen, but we know it's Owen. You know what I mean? Like, no one else would do that, okay? And Davey was losing it. And if you know the way Davey would talk when he got mad, he would use a lot of explicits, and it was funny. Okay, he wanted to kill Owen, you know, so he's trying to bust the door open with his shoulder, and he couldn't get it open. And finally, Owen comes back. I don't know if they got lock cutters or whatever. I can't remember, but Owen was the one that undid it. And he goes, what? I didn't know nothing about this. I just saw this happen. I'm trying to help you guys. But of course, we find out it's Owen, you know.
Of course.
Well, guys, listen, we're at the top of the hour mark. You know, we try to keep this nice and tight for an hour. I cannot thank you enough for being here with us. One more time, I got to make sure that I mention and put this up on the screen as well. If you have not as of yet, this just makes it nice and easy. You see the graphic, you see the reviews. You can go to Amazon, scan that QR code if you're watching us on YouTube. All the same QR codes there, but that'll take you to the ability to check it. You can check out markmero.com. Again, Ben Veal helped out with this. Wrestling Life Online. Check out Ben. He's doing amazing things as well. Marc, we're just so thankful for you taking the time to be with us this week. And, man, wish you nothing but success with everything you're doing, not only the book, but what you're doing also for mankind and for kids and for adults alike, and what you're doing now with the back half of your years here. Just amazing to hear about today.
Paul, you do a great job, and I can't thank you enough for having me on the show and connecting me with Arn, to reconcile with Arn after all these years. Haven't seen him in so long, but Arn, I love you, man. You're one of the best, and one of the highlights of my career was being able to be in that same locker room, travel with you, and just enjoy so many great matches. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Right back at you, buddy. Thanks for being here with us. We appreciate you. Paul, you are pretty good.
God bless.
I think we'll keep you.
You'll keep me around. I appreciate that.
Okay,
Listen,
best luck to you and everything that you do going forward, buddy. Travel safe. Feel for you having to get on those airplanes.
For sure.
Nothing is certain when you go to the airport these days.
Amen.
Yes. Safe travels. Listen, we are going to be back, Arn, if you're okay with it. Me and you come back together. What do you think, in 2 weeks?
Yep.
Tuesday night, April the 8th, is it? April the 8th. If you're good, Arn, we'll
Sounds
come back
good.
6 p.m. Eastern. We're going to talk November of 1995. Johnny B. Bad fought DDP that night. Johnny B. Bad was the TV champ, and he won the services of the Diamond Doll, Kimberly, and then he immediately freed her to go do her own thing. So it was World War III. And we're 3 rings, 60-man battle royal, but our TV champ here kicked off that event. So we're going to talk all things November 1995 next week, in 2 weeks here on the show.
John, you're welcome any time, buddy. You want to come back, okay? Glad to have you.
Take care, guys.
On behalf of Marc Mero and Arn Anderson, this is Paul Bromwell. We'll see you right back here in 2 weeks on Arn.